For nearly 20 years, Walt Disney World had a nightclub district built around a fictional, shipwrecked millionaire. Then, almost overnight, Disney shut the whole thing down and let it sit empty. This is the rise and fall of Pleasure Island. The backstory nobody asked for, but everybody loved. Pleasure Island opened on May 1st, 1989, as part of what was then called Walt Disney World Village. True to Disney's Imagineering style, the entire district was built around an elaborate fictional history that guests were never required to know, but that shaped every inch of the design. According to the invented backstory, a sailing magnate named Meriwether Adam Pleasure had built an industrial empire on the island, manufacturing sailcloth and ice in the 1940s and 50s. His fortune supposedly collapsed, the family businesses folded, and the abandoned industrial buildings were left behind, later repurposed into a strip of nightclubs by his eccentric descendants. It was a strange amount of narrative effort for a shopping and entertainment district, and it's exactly the kind of world-building obsession that made Disney's theme park division different from every other entertainment company on Earth. What was actually inside? Pleasure Island packed a remarkable variety of nightlife into a small footprint. Mannequins Dance Palace offered a rotating dance floor and contemporary music. The Comedy Warehouse hosted improv comedy troupes performing multiple sets a night. 8 tracks leaned entirely into 1970s disco nostalgia. The Rock and Roll Beach Club, and later the BET Soundstage Club and Pleasure Island Jazz Company, rounded out the lineup, each with a distinct musical identity. But the crown jewel, the one former guests still talk about with genuine reverence decades later, was the Adventurers Club. Styled as the private clubhouse of a fictional globe-trotting explorer society, it wasn't really a nightclub at all. It was closer to immersive theater, with live actors performing scripted and improvised characters among the guests all night, hidden gags built into the walls, and a genuinely strange theatrical energy unlike anything else Disney had ever built. It developed a cult following that has outlived the club itself by well over a decade. Every night was New Year's Eve. The signature gimmick that defined Pleasure Island's identity was simple and relentless. Every single night, regardless of the actual date, the district staged a full New Year's Eve countdown celebration at midnight, complete with a giant illuminated ball drop, fireworks, and a street party atmosphere. For a place built to keep adult guests on Disney property after dark, instead of driving elsewhere for nightlife, it was an effective hook. You could visit Pleasure Island in the middle of July and still ring in a fake New Year with strangers from across the country. It became one of the more talked about only at Disney experiences of the 1990s. The cracks start to show. By the early 2000s, the entertainment landscape around Pleasure Island had shifted considerably. Universal Orlando's City Walk had opened in 1999 with a newer, flashier lineup of bars, restaurants, and nightlife aimed at a similar adult crowd, and it drew a real share of Orlando's nighttime tourist dollars. Meanwhile, Disney's own broader business strategy was quietly moving away from adults-only nightlife and toward family-friendly shopping and dining as its priority for the district. In 2004, Disney made the significant decision to drop the separate paid admission ticket that had defined Pleasure Island since 1989, making entry free to draw more foot traffic. It boosted numbers walking through, but it also diluted the exclusive, ticketed nightclub identity that had made the place feel special in the first place. The announcement nobody wanted to hear. In September 2008, Disney announced that most of Pleasure Island's nightclubs would close permanently by the end of the month, citing a strategic shift toward retail and dining across the district. The Adventurers Club, the Comedy Warehouse, Mannequins, and the rest of the lineup shut their doors within weeks of the announcement, with almost no extended farewell season for most of them. For the Adventurers Club specifically, the closure felt particularly abrupt to its devoted fan base, cast members and guests who had returned for years specifically for that one room. Online communities of former cast members and superfans formed almost immediately to preserve recordings, scripts, and memories of a club that could never quite be replicated anywhere else. Left standing, but empty. What followed was an unusually visible period of abandonment for a Disney property, a company generally known for demolishing or repurposing closed attractions quickly rather than letting them sit. For years after the 2008 closures, several of the original nightclub buildings remained standing but shuttered, visible to guests walking through what was still an active shopping and dining district around them. The empty, dark storefronts of a once thriving nightlife strip sitting inside an otherwise bustling Disney property created an odd, almost eerie contrast that longtime visitors noticed and photographed for years. Disney Springs and the final transformation. The lingering limbo ended with a massive redevelopment. Beginning around 2013 and completed in phases through 2016, Disney transformed the entire district, Pleasure Island included, into what is now known as Disney Springs. Most of the original nightclub buildings were either demolished or renovated beyond recognition. The old Mannequins building was eventually reimagined into the Edison, a nightclub and restaurant with its own elaborate fictional backstory, a design choice that felt like a deliberate echo of what Pleasure Island had once done so well. Little of the original physical infrastructure survives today in recognizable form. What's left? Pleasure Island exists now mostly in memory, in grainy guest-shot video footage, and in the fierce loyalty of former Adventurers Club regulars who still gather for reunions decades after the room went dark. It was never demolished all at once, and never given the dignified farewell tour Disney has since learned to offer other closing attractions. It just quietly stopped, sat empty for years, and was eventually built over by something newer, a pattern that is repeated across Disney property more than fans would like to admit.